Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve with me, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And it is an absolute pleasure to be back for our first show of 2024. It seems like it's been an age, but it has only actually been couple of weeks. Alex, how are you? How was your holiday season? All good?
It was pretty good. I feel like that little bit of a break we got between Christmas and the New Year and everything, that just flew right by. I felt like it was New Year. It came fast, didn't it? But
it did. It was with Christmas. Do you know, I was listening to something on the radio here before Christmas, and they were saying that the Monday, Tuesday, Christmas, Boxing Day, because we have Boxing Day over here in the UK, the Monday, Tuesday, Christmas, Boxing Day combination is the worst combination for traffic, according to the RAC, who are our sort of traffic people over here, which is strange. I don't know why any other combination would be any different. I think it's because it's like a full week, then a weekend, then a Monday, Tuesday, and then you got but I don't know. But it did fly by. Jaren, how are you?
Doing good. Holiday's over. Vacation is over. I'm back to work tomorrow. Kids are back to school, maybe. We've got a snowstorm coming. Yeah, we've got a snowstorm coming in. So possibly Tuesday, maybe no school. Tomorrow, we'll see. Over the break, though, I did go see a couple movies, though, over the break. I didn't plan on seeing Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, but it was an enjoyable movie. I thought Yahya did pretty good as the villain.
One of the best parts of that movie, to be honest. He was great. That hatred for Aquaman, man, it was so just front and center in that movie. He did great.
And then Patrick Waterburn as Orm, I thought he did good. He's actually the person I would picture as Aquaman, not Jason Momoa. I'm still not the biggest Momoa fan as Aquaman. But I love that we saw the seahorse. I love that we saw the suit. I love that we got Aquaman. But yeah, I thought it was a good movie. I think it was pretty balanced with Amber Heard's character, Mera. I didn't feel like I missed any scenes with her. I thought it was just a good balance of after whatever they changed in the movie. I am kind of sad we didn't see never mind. So anyways, I'm not going to say anything to spoil the movie in case anyone hasn't seen it. But I thought it was good. We also went and saw Migration yesterday as a family. That's a good, fun family flick there. It was really fun, really enjoyable. If you have kids, you want to go see a good family movie, go see Migration.
Just thinking about your gift the other day. That's a good, clean family stuff right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, do you know what? It's difficult to find. Well, it's not difficult to find. There's quite a lot of them about, but it's difficult to find a good one. Like a good, clean family movie you can take everybody to go see.
And I keep forgetting they keep putting those shorts in front of the Disney films now, or the animated films. And they started off with a Despicable Me short, and I was like, "Are we in the movie theater?" And my wife's like, "Yeah, it's a short. Calm down." Because I was like, looking around, like I'm confused. But go ahead.
This isn't the movie we've signed up for. Yeah. It's Patrick Wilson who plays in Aquaman.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, thank you for correcting me.
I rewatched The Watchmen. The movie. We was talking about it, weren't we, on our last show? And I was like, and then it just happened to be on the telly. And then I called it about 10, 15 minutes in, and I thought, that'll be okay. So I just carried on watching it.
In that movie.
Yeah, he's the Night Owl, isn't he?
Yep.
And he's a great actor. I like him. I think he's really cool. So that was really good. But I've been watching. I think this might be the last sort of installment of my time travel tiny stuff, but I'm watching Manifest. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen parts of it. Is it the one with the plane?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Have you seen it all the way through, Alex?
No, I've only seen like the beginning of it, but what I can remember, it's like a plane lands and it had been gone for like some X amount of time. I don't remember how long it was. It was like 20 years or something.
Five and a half years.
Yeah, something like that. And then it lands and everybody's like, they land and they're like, hey, nothing's changed. And everybody's like, oh, you've been gone for all this time.
Yeah, this is it. So I thought I did try watching it a few years ago when it first came out. And I think I only got through the first couple of episodes because I didn't necessarily find myself adhering much to the characters. But, I stuck with it this time, went through it, and I got through that sticking point, I guess. And then I did find some sort of, actually some of the characters are quite good. Like the main guy, he's just like such a nice bloke. It's unreal how nice he is. I think he's Josh Dallas, the actor. But you know what, it's pretty decent. I'm about halfway through the second season. I'm enjoying it, and again, like I said, I like my timey-wimey stuff, so it's all good. Dorian, what are you laughing at?
I just looked up who Patrick Warburton is. I'm like, I can't believe I confused Patrick Wilson with Patrick Warburton, because they're two different people. And Patrick Warburton's with that voice, and he's been on those cartoons and stuff. And he was like in Rules of Engagement. Yeah, I can't believe I'm sorry about that. Thank you for correcting me. So I was like, why was he in my head? I don't know why.
I sat there and thought to myself, I'm sure that he wasn't in Aquaman, and then it took me a second to think you meant Patrick Wilson. But yeah, that's all good. It's all good. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. Talking about what we're here for, what we're actually here for today is we're going to be having a look back at What If Season 2. That dropped over the Christmas period in a strange, or not necessarily strange, but in a new way to drop it. A new episode every day, 9 days, just on that format. I didn't necessarily dislike it, and I think if it was only me watching it in my household, I would have loved it. It would have been great. But when there was, we try and sit down as a family of 4 to watch all the Marvel releases, so it became very difficult. There's 3 people in the household that work, and the kids have got their own sort of likes and other bits and pieces that they like doing. So it was very difficult to find times to go, right, we're going to sit down and watch this every day. And that sounds silly when you think it's only 30 minutes, and everyone's got 30 minutes spare, but has everyone got 30 minutes spare at the same time?
Same time.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I didn't particularly dislike the daily drop. It just didn't work for my family on a daily basis. Do you know what I mean? It's working. Yeah, we've seen it all now. But that was my point. How did you guys feel about it?
I get it, because my son and I was watching, the 2 of us were trying to coordinate, and there were some days that we didn't get to watch it. We had to wait. And there were some days we watched a couple in a row in that method, because either he was sleeping, then we have stuff going here at the house with some construction going on, and I was doing other stuff. So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, I kind of had this issue where with family stuff going on, and then trying to coordinate other things that I had going on, I would try and sneak in an episode at the end of the day, and then it was kind of at one point, I think 3 days had gone by, and I just didn't have any time to watch it, and then that night I realized, I think that was when we were in episode 5 or something like that, and I started watching 2 episodes every night. I would skip the next day and then watch 2 that, and just kind of get caught back up. And I did that all the way through episode 9. It wasn't really frustrating. It was just one of those things where it was I really wish that they would have dropped it all almost at the same time, because then I probably would have watched it in bigger chunks and just watched over a couple of days or something. But I get why they did it that way.
Yeah. I tell you, it's quite funny. I was comparing it to, so I'm in the fitness industry, if everybody watching didn't know or does know, but and a lot of people do these challenges where they do, I'm going to do, 2 miles a day, 3 miles a day, 5 miles a day, 10 miles a day, whatever it is, whether it's walking or cycling or running or whatever, rowing, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to do this thing every day. I'm going to do 5 miles every day. And it's well, that's great. On average, 5 miles every day in January. Yeah. So, okay, if you do day 1, that's fine. You've done day 1, that's 5 miles. You do day 2, that's great. You miss day 3. So then on day 4, you've actually now got to do 10 miles. And if you miss day 4 as well, on day 5, you've got to do 15 miles. That's ridiculous. Well, it's not ridiculous, but it's a long distance. How are you going to find the time to do 15 miles? And if you miss that one, then you're doing a marathon nearly the following day, So, I did find it a little bit like that. It was I've missed an episode. Oh, no, now I've got to find an hour. Now we've got to find an hour where we can sit down. It was hard enough finding half an hour. But you know what? It's done. And I think anybody in our situation, we'll find a way to watch it, and we did. And but let's get into the actual episodes. So we did discuss, didn't we, very briefly before we came on air, that we're not going to go through every single episode bit by bit. We're just going to pull out some little bits that we liked and just comment on a few bits that we thought could have been better, and just our general observations like we already do. And I'm going to start by saying I really liked the feeling of that first episode, if Nebula joined the Nova Corps. It had very much Blade Runner, Sin City vibes to me. That sort of gritty, underworld of Marvel that you haven't really seen. It had those sort of crime thriller vibes to me.
Mm-hmm. I loved Howard the Duck in it too. That was a nice little surprise, you know. I was watching it with somebody and they were like, who is the duck? So I had to pause it and then explain who Howard the Duck was. And then they weren't really like about Howard the Duck, but then he had that funny line where he's like, they're like arguing about style and he's like, I don't have style. I'm wearing a bandana or whatever it was he said. And like she thought it was so funny and I laughed so hard at that scene. And I thought that was a really good episode. I loved how they had the idea of doing the enclosure around Xandar and it could like hold for 50 years and it kind of isolates them from the rest of the universe and everything. And you got Ronan just like hanging out up there, just waiting for the barrier to go down. I thought that was just like such an interesting concept. It was like something you would have been like, wow, they could have done that in the first Guardians of the Galaxy when Ronan first attacked and, you know, they could have just thrown up the dome and that would have been a game changer. But, you know, it's also one of those things, this is what if, this is like one of those, like, what if they did something differently in a different situation or something. So I thought it was an awesome episode. Great episode. Nebula did awesome in that episode too as a character. I felt like I was not excited for that episode, but I was really blown away by how good it was after I watched it.
I totally agree. Before we come to you, Joe, and I agree with you, Alex. It was probably the episode that I was least excited for and enjoyed the most in like the difference between the two. You know what I mean? I was kind of like, I really wasn't bothered about watching it at all. And actually, in the end, it was probably one of the ones that I liked the most.
Yeah, I definitely loved the Nebula focus. Definitely loved how we got more of the NovaCorp style stuff in there. The Blade Runner feel. It was a good episode to kick off the season.
Yeah, 100%. Then just picking out a couple of other moments. I think everybody liked the Happy Hogan episode.
Yes.
Yeah,
the Die Hard feel.
Yeah, I was so like not excited for that episode. I was like, oh god, I don't really want to watch this one. But then I was so blown away. Like I loved what they did with that episode with him like becoming like a Hulk and everything. And yeah, I mean, like it felt like it was kind of fast paced, which I did not expect. And yeah, I mean, it was nice because then we also see Happy Hogan as a Hulk, like all the way in the what if the Avengers assembled in 1602, which I thought was a nice little like kind of pick up from a previous episode that they did.
Yeah,
we get Darcy Lewis back. You know, we get Hammer back in the MCU. Yeah. Hopefully, we see Hammer back in Armor Wars is the rumor. So hopefully, we see more of that. Yeah, I thought it was a great fun one to do. I wish they would have dropped that one on Christmas though, instead of Christmas Eve.
Yeah, sure. What else did we have? How about the episode with Tony and Gamora? The one that we were supposed to be holding on for. I think that one was supposed to be in season 1, if I'm right.
Yeah, but because of delays and COVID, it got pushed back. Yep.
I have no clue how Sakaar turned into like Death Race, but like
Death
I
Race
was like
Mad Max, right?
Yeah. So like I'm like, oh, like I hated it, but I also liked it. I can't explain it. It was like it was so different than what I expected. But like I was just like, you know, expecting Tony to build some like suit out of like stuff on Sakaar and then like defeating everybody and like a battle royale kind of type thing, like kind of like what Hulk and Thor were doing, but you know, it was so much different. And honestly, like I thought it was really interesting the ending of that episode where him and Gamora kind of team up and then they take down Thanos at the end of the episode.
Yep.
But another really interesting thing that was in that episode was he's talking to, I think it was Gamora, and he says something about a demon in a bottle. And that's like from like a reference to one of Tony Stark's like greatest stories about him trying to conquer his like alcoholism and stuff like that, which I thought was awesome to throw in that episode.
You know what? The whole way through this series, there was lovely little lines, just one-liners, you know, couple of words which were nods to something in the past. And I thought it was really well done how they just layered them in there. You know, one of my favorite ones was in the 1602 episode when Peggy was talking to Steve, and I think Steve asks her something about the Steve in her universe or something, and he says, oh, do you want to tell me? And she was like, no, I don't think I will. And I just love that little nod to the old Cap in Endgame sitting on the bench, and when he tells Sam he doesn't think he will tell. But I loved all of those little nods. I thought they were great. What else we got? Any things that stood out for you?
I kind of like the Kahori one. You know, One Street with the World, the whole new character in the MCU. That gave me kind of things of how, if they brought that into live action, could that be one of the ancient cities of heaven, like we saw in Shang-Chi? So that was pretty cool. How they use the Tesseract, and they had that whole different world, and going to the lake, and then conquering the conquistadors as well. So I thought that was a pretty cool nod and something new to see. I wonder if the way that episode ended and how they did reshape the world, if Kahori will be any kind of tie to Echo at all. I know they're different tribes, but if they conquer the world, of course, there's going to be some intermingling of other tribes and that kind of stuff. So I wonder if that could be a nod towards Echo at all and one of her ancestral powers. But what we want to know, a fun fact about that episode, the actress who voiced Kahori will be playing Bonnie in Echo. So,
okay.
Yeah.
A couple of things I liked about that episode. The first thing was about the unpatronizing way that they just went, we're going to make them talk their language and you're going to read.
Yep.
For a majority of it. I quite like that. I always find it a little bit, I don't know. I find it a little bit odd when you're watching something that's set in another country, that's a non-English speaking country, and they're all speaking English just with an accent, and you kind of like that's you're doing that for my benefit, like for English speakers' benefit. And it's like, I can read, and they would talk in their language. Like I think you get a better feel of it when they're talking in their language,
Yeah.
So I quite like that. I like the fact that they sort of treated us like grown-ups and was like, no, you can read this, I quite like that. But what I also liked about the powers were, it was, so we've seen quite a few people get powers from the Space Stone, haven't we? If I can remember rightly. So obviously, like Carol being one of them, and my mind draws a blank. But there's other people that have got powers from the Space Stone. Their powers seemed like the most kind of, they made sense the most. Certainly when she started in the last episode, when she started doing the portals and moving, because she got her powers from the Space Stone, so she can move through space and time quicker and easier than other people, so it did that did kind of make sense to me.
And I think the speedster powers also kind of made sense, because it's like giving her the ability to traverse space at a quicker speed, you know what I'm saying? So it was like one of those things where she's just projecting herself basically in another direction. So I really liked how they kind of did that. But one thing that it did really bring into question for me was they're overpowered. That group of people now have that, they would be a force to be reckoned with, So I think it was Mark who brought it up, and Mark was like, I wonder if they'll do anything with them, and they probably should. I thought that they could have done maybe a little bit more in the final episode with them, where maybe all those people came back and helped Kahori win against Strange or something, but nah, I didn't really see that, and I felt like they could have done a little bit more kind of later on in the series with the rest of that tribe and everything, you know. So
there was a few moments throughout the whole series talking about Kahori when she takes down the conquistadors at the end. They take down a whole bunch of them, don't they? And it's ruthless. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It should have been, but there was quite a few moments throughout the entire series where there was some proper ruthless fight scenes against, there was one against robots, and I can't remember what it is now.
Was the Hydra Stomper one?
Yeah, there was that one. Yeah, there was the Hydra Stomper one where Peggy and Natasha took out loads of those 1960s, 1950s doll things. But there was another one which ripped robots apart. What one was that? Was that Hogan? Was that Happy Hogan that just ripped a load of Ultron robots apart?
Yes, it was.
I'm sure not Ultron robots, but the bots.
Iron Legion.
Yeah, Iron Legion. Thank you. But yeah, there was quite a few scenes where there was one or two people absolutely tearing apart. And do you know what it reminded? Tearing apart other things. Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the puppet scene from Gen V. It was like they wouldn't be able to get away with that in What If, even if it was in What If animation style, if it was other human beings, but because there was robots or aliens or whatever, they just ripped them apart and nobody even batted an eyelid. And conquistadors that were just taking over, being horrible anyway. It just kind of made me laugh how they just kind of just went full throttle in these couple of moments. They were just really aggressive, and it was just wiping everybody out in the room, or everything out in the room.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of touched on another episode that you just touched on there, but the episode with Peggy Carter and Black Widow, I thought that was, I didn't really like that episode, but I didn't really hate it either. But like, it was very interesting seeing like the Hydra Stomper, but kind of becoming the replacement for the Winter Soldier in a way and everything. And the whole time I'm watching that episode, I'm like, is he brainwashed or not? Like, I feel like he's like leading them into a trap. And then you see it happen and you're like, I knew it. Like, why did this happen? And like, you know, Black Widow has that line earlier on in the episode where she's like, basically telling Peggy not to believe everything she sees, kind of type of thing. And then Peggy, I think later on in the episode, is like, yeah, you were right. Like, maybe I shouldn't have listened to you or something like that. And it was just, it was very interesting. And then seeing that kind of like, they were just looking for a weapon of war to kind of, any kind of weapon of war. And if it wasn't going to be Bucky, it would be somebody else kind of type of deal.
Kind of got your Hydra cap in a way.
Yeah. So,
with that episode, it reminds me about the fantastic fight scenes throughout the entire series. I thought some of the fight scenes were really creative, really interesting, and really well choreographed. Albeit, is that the right word to say? Choreographed when it's animation? Do they still choreograph fights when it's animation? Surely they do. Well,
yeah, I mean, I feel like there is probably a certain amount. Like, you got to make it look realistic, right? And you got to make it look like it's an actual, like, I mean, not realistic, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it needs to look like an actual fight scene, you know? Like, it's not just like people just kind of just throwing hands and stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
like,
right.
You're focusing it.
And with that, the 10 Rings episode with Hela and the 10 Rings. Now, I've got a problem with it though, right? Because I really enjoyed it, but my problem with Hela was a joke. Like, for most of it, she was like really, she was almost like, she wasn't stupid at all, but
a punchline.
Yeah. But I loved the episode. It was strange. I was like, her at the end, she just sort of became serious at the end, didn't she? And I quite like, and at the beginning, she was kind of serious as well, like before she got cast out. But when she was on Earth, she reminded me very much of that sort of joke Thor, you know, that I'm going to play the fool sort of thing, and I'm going to say little quirky lines. Don't get me wrong, some of them were quite funny, and we was giggling away sitting there watching it. But I kind of felt like it kind of didn't match the seriousness. But maybe it did. Maybe at the end it did. It got serious. She got serious. She took it seriously, and that's when actually good stuff happened at the end. When not good, I don't mean good stuff happened at the end as in the episode was rubbish until the end. I mean good stuff happened for her at the end, because she started taking it seriously and not as a joke, maybe. But great episode.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it too, because I thought that it was great, because we got to see kind of a different universe where instead of her being imprisoned by Odin for, you know, wanting to kill, he basically just banishes her and removes her powers. And it's got that Thor 1 kind of feel to it, you know. But one of the most interesting things that I thought was like just the Odin Hela 10 ring fight scene.
Yes.
That was like excellent, you know.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, it was so great. And I think I agree with you that dialogue was kind of like shoddy, but it was almost kind of like one of those things that I don't think she realized that she wasn't a god anymore. So it seemed like, you know, in the beginning it was like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And then like she starts to realize that she's got to find an ulterior motive to kind of do what she wants to do. I love the Shang-Chi tie, like to, what is it, Talo?
Yeah,
the dragon weapons and stuff.
And Morris that got to Talo, the little headless
Morris.
But
it was.
In that universe, though, there's no Shang-Chi, though, because instead of Wen Wu going to Tal, or at least Talo with eating his wife through that way, through the whole fight thing, it was Hela doing that. So you have no Shang-Chi in that universe. What also makes me wonder, too, is that we know from last season Captain Carter made her way over to live action in Multiverse of Madness. Will this Hela be the one from this season to make her way over to live action to help possibly fight in the multiverse saga, maybe? You know, be interesting to see. But yeah, I loved all the things they did with that, how they kind of changed things up. But also too, we got a little sad thing in there. She never really got was it Fenris, the wolf?
Yeah.
Fenris wolf.
Yeah. Odin took him away as a pup. So she really never got, you know, he's like kind of nipped it in the bud before it got any worse. So that was the kind of a sad point in the episode.
I liked her line though, where she's like talking about her enemies, and she's like, "All right, yeah, Odin," and I think she says Wen Wu at one point, and then she's like, and also Frigga, you know, my dad's like wife or
new
whatever.
girlfriend.
I'm not really into her either, you know. Like I was just like, that's really funny. They kind of threw Frigga in there still, you know.
From the chat here, looks like we got RMC on with us today. What's everyone? Just joined the party. Had to work today. Yeah, I saw your pics. You know, snow and what you're doing out there. I'm glad you made it home safe, because I couldn't do that. Also from the chat here too, I thought we'd see Hela in Secret Wars. Yep, same thing I was just saying. I think she might be the one they pluck from this season to bring into live action. Hopefully they do. They keep doing that trend as they do more What If season. They pick one person from the season, and we kind of see that in live action. Because I'd love to see more of Cate Blanchett, right? Yeah, I'm getting bad with names. Okay, I'd love to see more of Cate Blanchett. She's a great actress. I love to see more of her in live action. I'm glad she came back to voice Hela for this season as well.
Lots of people coming back to voice their characters, and I thought the voice actors that they chose for the characters whose live action actor didn't come back, I thought they were pretty good as well. Just before we get onto the last 2 episodes, because they kind of linked, didn't they? The one episode we haven't said anything about is the Peter Quill episode when he was a child. So that was one of those proper moments, wasn't it? In if Yondu did give him back to his dad, that was a proper what if moment. You see those moments. I think, Alex, you asked the other day, didn't you, on the group, about what would your own what if be? And there's certain moments I think that we can pick up in the MCU where there was a decision that has been made, like a decision like that by our characters, and that was a good one. So it was interesting to see how that one was going to play out. But the Avengers team was quite interesting, wasn't it? So obviously you had Bill Foster in there as Goliath, so first time I was really seeing him, and Lawrence Fishburne was great.
Yeah, I love Goliath, and ever since we saw him in the Ant-Man movies, like, I've always wanted to see him come back. I'd like to see him in live action. I like Lawrence Fishburne, so I don't ever think that there's ever an occasion where I'm unhappy to see him as any character. So seeing him, just, I guess, come back as a voiced character of Goliath, that was awesome to see. We also saw, what was her name?
Wendy Lawson.
Yeah. And I mean, we got an interesting look at Bucky there too in that episode. Bucky, that was kind of, that took place in the 80s, right? So Bucky was, kind of, they even recognized that probably is Bucky in that episode before anybody actually puts 2 and 2 together. And I think it was Stark who says something, Howard Stark, who's like, even if it is Bucky, he's already been lost, and we can't do anything for him. But then he has that great little line where he talks to him over the comms, and it's like, do not take that shot. Do not take that shot. And Winter Soldier stands down and doesn't take the shot. So I thought that was great, Yeah,
it was cool to see Howard Stark kind of in the Nick Fury role, to some of that team, having also Hank Pym on the team, King T'Chaka on the team, all the different ways we could see that. That'd be a cool Avengers team. And sadly, we won't see anything like that in the MCU live action, because everything with, maybe not till down the road, but back on your Lawrence Fishburne, Bill Foster, I'd love to see him. I'd love to see more flashbacks of him actually as Goliath, because I don't think we're going to get him actually in the Goliath suit at this point. But, even in Thunderbolts, right, since Ghost is on the team, maybe we see more flashbacks of him, and maybe he's some way involved in Thunderbolts. We'll see. But, yeah, definitely we'll always use more Lawrence Fishburne.
I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but he was in the trailer, sneak peek for season 3.
Yep.
If you haven't seen it, so he's obviously coming back for season 3. Not in that Goliath role though.
As a SHIELD agent, right?
Yeah, by the looks of it, or a cop, or something. Yeah. But anyway, let's not jump ahead too far. So those last 2 episodes, 1602, we've covered that one a little tiny bit. What I really liked, I mean, I quite liked that episode, but what I really liked about that episode was the costumes. I thought the costumes were fantastic for all the different characters. I want a whole group of Funkos in those costumes. They were so cool. I loved them. But that led on quite nicely to the to the last episode, which was. I wouldn't say it was a mess necessarily, but there was just so much happening, and that fight scene at the end just never seemed to end. It was just one massive fight scene that just kept going on, and Strange was like, I've got another trick up my sleeve.
Tomorrow, I've come to bargain.
That's it.
Yeah. That scene where everybody kept on going up and coming back down and going up. I was just it felt like that scene where Loki was just falling for 30 minutes. And I was just if I'm these people have been falling for what feels like 30 minutes now, but I mean, and we saw Killmonger comes in, they see Thanos and he snaps Thanos away. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Peggy gets the stones and she fights Strange. And the whole time I'm like, why don't you just snap? Just remove him. Just go like that. He's gone. And I mean, obviously, I guess they want to continue the episode and not make it that easy. But
I suppose she's got to know how to do it as well, and she's got to know that that's a possibility. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, but she watched it happen. I mean, right in front of her.
Oh, yeah,
like Killmonger snapped him away. So, and that was basically how she got the stones. Then Kahori was like, all right, Killmonger's gone, and got rid of him and gave the stones to Peggy. So it was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, like, great little scene where all the villains are falling and they throw all their weapons and everything. I loved Hela's line about give them hell as she falls. Like, I really liked that.
It was interesting.
Great meme. There was that great meme. I don't remember who posted it, but it was when your kids come out like from tidying up their room or something, they've just got everything on. They've just got like all these different bits, like all these different weapons that they're holding, and you just got Peggy there with Hela's thing on. She's got her own shield. She's got the Infinity Stones. Was that the Ebony Blade? What was the sword? I believe
so.
I was thinking it was the Ebony Blade.
Or is it Excalibur?
Oh, Excalibur. Yes, it could have been Excalibur. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm going to come back and watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. It must have been one of those because it seems significant. The fact that, you had Mjolnir, the stones, Hela's helmet, the 10 rings, and then this sword, it must be the Ebony Blade or Excalibur. Surely. It's got to be.
I love that scene where the hammer gets thrown at Strange and he catches it in his mouth and just crushes it. And I was like, well, yeah. Like, oh, okay. Like, I can see we're doing that,
Have you guys seen the Last Dragon before? Bruce Leroy catching bullets with his teeth?
Yeah.
That reminded me of that scene right there. Strange Supreme catching Mjolnir with his teeth.
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
It was a bit like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting concept too with that thing, because you feel like that Strange Supreme is kind of stepping in for the Watcher. The Watcher's kind of taking a vacation, it seems like, this season, kind of taking some time off. And then you kind of find out that Strange Supreme has gone full heel, and his whole purpose is back to season 1 episode where he wants to get his universe back, get Christine back, and the whole thing ending where, since that didn't happen, he saved his universe, but in that he sacrificed himself. So that was an interesting concept for this season.
I think in episode 8, when the Watcher appears to Peggy and he's like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, come on, I can just take you back onto your universe and everything like that. We can go and get you out of here. Like, I felt like, she asked him at one point when they take the scenic route home and everything, and she sees Loki's multiverse and she sees the tree and everything. She asked him right before that point, did you know that all this was going to happen? And he's like, yeah, basically, yeah. So I felt like, he knew what was going to transpire. He was giving her that option. Like, you don't have to save this universe. If you just let me take you home now, this universe will be destroyed, da-da-da-da. But he almost knew, I felt like, that Strange was going to pull this and then grab Peggy and pull her in to help him take down Kahori. But it was so strange to me because, I was just like, for me personally, I felt like for Peggy Carter, she was just kind of jumping around, and it was just Strange was like, hey, I need your help, and just kind of used her as bait, and just kind of threw her out there. And that was kind of and I don't know why he chose Peggy. I mean, I guess he could have chose anybody, but it just seemed kind of odd that he would send Peggy, because Peggy instantly started to fight her and then was just oh, you're saying that he's not telling the truth, and instantly realized something was up and switched sides. So I don't know. I thought that was a really interesting kind of part of the finale, to be honest.
Yeah, and speaking of the tree at the end with the Watcher, that's the same tree we saw at the end of Loki season 2. So it's almost like, possibly they're setting up Captain Carter to come back as part of the Secret Wars and whatever, Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2, I guess I'll call it now, with the whole Kang thing. But it seems like they are setting her up to come back for that possibly as well. What If does feel like it's kind of the Peggy Carter series now, because she's kind of been the focus now in 2 seasons, and that's fine with me. My only, I think you probably agree with this, Alex, that we had this conversation, is the whole Infinity Stones thing. Yes. I think, I understand trying to have some of that continuity from season 1 and coming to season 2, but I feel like we're past the Infinity Stones. We're out of the Infinity Saga now. We've kind of gone through the whole dealings of the snap, or whatever you want to call it now, the blip. So I feel like we kind of need to move on for that and kind of focus more into the multiverse side of things. And maybe they're hinting at that at the end of the series, but It would be good to see some kind of next season, whether it's King or the Beyonder or who else, kind of going that route for the whole thing and kind of get fully away from the Infinity Stones.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't want to say. I think those they were only just used as a weapon. You know, they threw the stones, they threw the rings, they threw Molinor. They weren't really key to anything, to be honest. I mean, Kahori got her powers from one. They weren't like, we've got to find these things. Like,
I mean, Cap kept on getting her shield back with them, you know, and stuff like that. So,
but I mean, I personally didn't see the problem. They didn't show. They weren't. The series wasn't about the Infinity Stones. They were just there in the same way where Excalibur was there or the Ebony Blade was there. They just used that as a weapon.
But do you think they could have brought all these other relics in without having to use the Infinity Stones, possibly?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I feel like the Infinity Stones are kind of like that lean on option now, and they've become like that in the MCU, where it's like, hey, when we don't know what to do, just make some Infinity Stones appear, and we'll just lean on those. And I mean, I've got my own personal problems with Killmonger being able to use them after we saw Tony die from using them, with, you know, Peggy Carter being able to use them. And I think the director of What If came out and was like trying to say something about Space Stone energy was around them, and that's what made her. I don't really agree with that. I think that's so weird. Yeah, but like, I mean, you can justify it however, but I feel like in the multiverse saga, the last thing that I want to see is everything just keeps on going back to the ultimate out is just get some Infinity Stones and that fixes it. And I was like watching this, and at the end I was like, man, I really hope we don't end the multiverse saga with somebody getting some Infinity Stones and then, like, you know, using that in a battle against the, you know, the ultimate big bad at the end of this, if it's Kang or not. And that's, you know, where we end up somehow using some Infinity Stones again, because it just feels like we can't get away from those. Like, I mean, we saw it in season 1 of What If. We saw it in season 2 of What If. We've seen it in Endgame. We saw it in Infinity War. Like, and to kind of like see it in Loki and stuff, it was kind of like made into a joke. But then in What If, it's like these are like the ultimate weapon again. And it's like, okay. So, I mean, I just kind of would like to see them move past it and not really keep making that U-turn, because I feel like it's like the ultimate writing. Like, we don't know what to do here. Just bring the Infinity Stones back, like, you know. And
like you have Alioth now that you could have brought in to help with that battle. You could even brought Dormammu in with that. You know, you could have brought in the Dark Strange that we've seen in live actions in. So you have all ways that you could have gone. You could have brought in Wong in to help, maybe, since he's as the Sorcerer Supreme now in the MCU. So there's all kinds of ways they could have gone to help with this.
Or they could have just had Kahori open portals and bring all the characters from all the other seasons in, like they kind of did with with the Guardians of the Multiverse, and just bring characters in, and then they all fight Strange and do that. And I hate to say it like that, but I think I would have liked that better than rather just like, hey, give everybody Captain Carter, or give Captain Carter all your stuff and give her the Infinity Stones, and boom, like, you know, she'll just take him down with Kahori. And yeah, I mean, I just thought it was kind of lazy writing in the end. It fell kind of flat for me. I thought everything in that season was amazing, like for the first 7 episodes, and then I wasn't really a big fan of the 1602 episode, and then going into that finale, I just kind of like, you know, not really what I was expecting.
Or use Scarlet Witch, you know, in that final battle a lot heavier. You know, we saw her; she can take on Strange, and, you know, maybe have her use.
I thought they were gonna.
Yeah.
I thought they were really
set her up.
Yeah,
you set her up in the episode beforehand. Use her.
Yeah.
So
I was surprised they didn't use her a little bit more, because they made a big deal about the fact that Olsen was coming back to play Wanda in What If, like doing the voice for her, and she was only really in that the 1602 episode for a few lines, didn't she? And I was surprised that's what I was expecting. I was expecting her to come back in that last episode and play a bigger part.
Unless, like, in that last episode, we saw zombie Wanda. So, I mean, unless she was, like, growling or something. Yeah, you know. Well, but, like, that was even quick, because you find out Hela can control the zombies and everything, which I thought was a nice little thing, being the goddess of death and everything. And, yeah, I mean, that was interesting. But, I mean, even that, like, again, Scarlet Witch kind of swept to the side real quick with that, you know?
It's like you could have had Scarlet Witch, instead of using the Darkhold, use the Book of Ashante, but still use things like Gargantos, and have America Chavez come in and help out and use the portals, and have kind of America Chavez and Kahori team up as well. I think that would have been a pretty cool team up to see. So I like how they're bringing more characters in. Hopefully season 3, since we're going to see that we saw that teaser that we're going to see more of characters that we've seen in these new phases that have been brought in. Maybe that was the restraint too, is by the time because it seems like they're doing What If so far ahead now. Mm-hmm. And I have a thing like why they couldn't use Captain America, Sam Wilson. I have some news about that. So maybe they're so far ahead that the next season that we'll start seeing these changes and seeing these more new characters, because it feels like we might be a season ahead of where the actual live action MCU is. That could be the reason why too as well. From the chat here, I was off with how it finished. I thought they make Wanda the problem. That's a good point.
Yeah. Yep.
Wanda versus Wanda.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think we've covered What If Season 2 pretty well there. We've got through a lot of good stuff. So should we move on to some news, Jaren?
Yeah, so I talked about the actress who voiced Kahori will be Bonnie in Echo, which Echo is going to be on Tuesday with all episodes being dropped. Via IGN, with Season 1, there was a push to use the headliners to do this Tony Stark episode, to do the Black Panther episode in Doctor Strange. This is from AC Bradley. But with Season 2, we had a bit more freedom. At the end of the day, we're not writing the big blockbuster $100 million movie. We're not even show running the live-action TV shows. We're the scrappy little animation show slipping under the Marvel machine radar. So it's really subconscious, but I think we veered toward the scrappy characters in Season 2. We started with the second stringers, the undervalued and overlooked, like Nebula, Darcy, and Hela. Also, too, Season 2 was the COVID season, with all scripts being written between January 2020 and October 2020. So there you go. They were so far ahead of this that, like I said, we're going to be a season probably behind on live action MCU. Kate Blanchett, she signed on pretty fast to reprise her role in Hela in What If. I sent her the script, and thank God, because I don't think anyone can play Hela, not with her wit and darkness. So, the concept of Kahori episode came from conversations about seeing history of the Tesseract over 2,000 years, and what if the vibranium meteor landed somewhere else. So that's interesting. So they kind of basically changed those two things there and changed who actually got control of that. So that's pretty cool. AC Bradley shares they combined these two ideas for that episode. AC Bradley also shared that a What If Spider-Man episode got scrapped due to the story being very, very dark. Said it was called the story title Children of Men with Spider-Man. So it was too dark to do it. So from the chat here, okay, I didn't know that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Oh yeah, probably about how far they're ahead of live action MCU. What if zombies replaced that episode in Season 1? The Spider-Man episode. Also, Sam Wilson's Captain America couldn't be included as the creative team worked so far ahead of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Again, in 2020, this was all done, so that wasn't even shot yet. And Kahori was the best thing about What If Season 2. Thank you from the chat. Also, about Season 3, we got the sneak peek. It's going to be called What If Red Guardian Stopped the Winter Soldier. It was originally created for Season 2, but it got pushed to Season 3. The woman who picks up Bill Foster is Ranger Morales. No relation to Miles Morales, which I thought at first. I actually had to go back and look at this. It's actually a Alessandra Morales of S.H.I.E.L.D., who eventually moves on to Hammer, an agent. And she'll be voiced by America Ferrara in Season 3. So there you go.
Cool.
Ditto Born Again. It looks like Ditto from Netflix is going to be canon from the latest Echo trailer. It looks like they're possibly going to... This doesn't make everything canon, by the way. It looks like they're going to pick and choose what they want to do with those stories. Rumors have said that they will adapt the Devil's Reign arc, where Kingpin will outlaw heroes by declaring them vigilantes and uses an army of supervillains to rid the city of costume vigilantes.
Great story.
Yeah. Vinny D says what it would take to end Kingpin's reign in New York City. He says that's a difficult question. I don't see that happening. I don't see Kingpin dying. Kingpin never died in the canon of the comic books. So that's very difficult. I'll talk in terms of who could come close to it. I think that it would have to be either Daredevil or Spider-Man together, the two of them together, maybe. But I don't see Kingpin going away. He never did it when I was a kid, so I don't expect he will now.
Nice. Yeah, great story, that Devil's Reign. Really enjoyed that, actually. That's probably one of the most enjoyable recent arcs that I've read. So, yeah, really, really pleased with that one. And, yeah, having Vinny D on board being that man is is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
According to multiple reports, Muse will reportedly be the villain of Daredevil Born Again. So,
Interesting.
Moving on to Echo, since they're kind of linked here. Vinny D compares Fisk Echo appearance to Daredevil. I think that, originally in the comic books, he was also compelling, I think, and I've just been lucky to get the opportunity, beginning with the Netflix show, with really good writing to bring him forward in, I guess, a kind of new way. But just my version of what they did in the original comics, and then now in Echo, it's just more good writing, and, without the writing, I can't really do much other than that, show up. And so the writing is there, and so it gives me the opportunity to bring the character forward. And you saw with one of the latest teasers, there is clips from Daredevil from Netflix.
I'm thinking about Vinny D and Echo in particular. Is obviously Echo's not going to have any dialogue. He's not going to speak. Obviously not with a voice anyway. Signing obviously, so there's going to be a lot of not necessarily pressure on him, but a lot of focus on Kingpin's dialogue. So I'm hoping that we'll get a lot of Kingpin dialogue, because we didn't really get a great deal. We got kind of a soft version of him, didn't we, in Hawkeye? So I'm hoping that we get a bit more of him in this show, which it looks like we're going to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's a very thought-provoking villain, right? Because the way that he talks, in the Daredevil show, he would tell these stories, and you would almost understand a lot of why he was the way that he is. It wouldn't justify why he was the way that he is, but I love that line, and you see it in a lot of memes. When I was a boy, it's
but
so great.
That's such a great way to start a story. When I was a boy, it's like the old in the war. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, even down to the scene where he would stare at that painting that looked like a crack in the wall, and it being very similar to that crack I think that was in his apartment or whatever, when he was a kid. I mean, just those little things, it shows why he's the way that he is and his motivation to be that way. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily justify it, but I mean, it's a great written character, and in the Daredevil show. So coming to this, I hope we see more of that. I want to see more of that flushed out. They don't have to go back and touch all those things again, but you can continue a lot of that same stuff and just let him talk. I think everybody loves to hear Kingpin talk on screen for 5 minutes per episode,
100%. It's like I was saying to somebody the other day, most jokes are funny. It just depends who's telling them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And it's the same thing. Most stories are good. It just depends who's telling them. And when Vinny D tells a story, or when Kingpin tells a story, it's a great story. So yeah, absolutely. What you said there, perfect. I'd gladly sit there and listen to him for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
From the chat here, also, when I was a boy. Also, too,
maybe we can start off a thing on the group. When I was a boy, fill in the blank. Yeah. When I was a boy, finish the sentence.
Also, too, it'll be interesting to see how Echo and Daredevil communicate in this with how they communicate. There's some stuff from the comics they can take, but I'm interested to see how they do that in live action as well. Moving on to Secret Wars via Jeff Snyder. It's reportedly being split into 2 massive films. Secret Wars is shaping up to be a giant 5-hour movie with a year-long intermission. So basically we're getting Infinity War in-games thing, but also I've seen some people throughout there that this should be a trilogy. Last saga we got the first MCU 2-part Avengers film. Go ahead and give us a trilogy, right? Because Secret Wars, the whole build up, the whole thing happening, and then the aftermath, you can handle that in 3 films, right? Instead of trying to do 2 massive films and then try to carry that over into the next phase or the next saga of the aftermath. Let's do it all in 3 films. I think they would do themselves some justice, but the runway there would be huge to take that on for 3 films, right? Instead of doing a giant 5-hour, in 2 parts, you could do, 6 hours easy, 7 maybe easy in 3 parts. Let's make it 9, right? 3 hours each.
Why not?
I'm game.
Yeah, just whatever they do, don't include those Infinity Stones. Just leave all that in the past. So
speaking of that, though, there's chatter out there that there's rumblings of the Beyonder as the main villain. So, which they kind of set that up in Quantumania, where with that Kang, where he could have kind of gone into that Beyond, become the Beyonder, and come back as somebody else. And speaking of Kang, Coleman Domingo is currently under consideration to take on the role of Kang, but also too, Kang could possibly be multiple actors as well. There's been some quotes floating around of Coleman Domingo, but this was 2 years ago, these quotes where he said he wants to play a villain in Marvel or DC. 2 years ago, he said, I think I'm ready now. I'm worked out, fit. I just want to be the villain. I don't want to be the good guy. I actually want to do some really dirty, nasty work. And that's Kang, right? You know, so I could see him taking that role on.
Yeah, I could as well. He's got a great voice. He's got a good stature. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the kind of guy that you can hear just go on like a rant about something, like just sit there and talk from his platform, and you just want to sit there and listen to. Always enjoyed him in The Walking Dead. I
get the feeling that he's the type of guy. Oh, sorry, Alex. You stopped, but I think you cut out, so I just carried on talking.
Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry. I also get the feeling though that he's the type of guy that if and when Doom comes in, he could just completely own him. Do you know what I mean? Like where Majors, I'd be kind of, as Kang, I'd be kind of like, nobody should be owning you, really. Like even Doom, like you as a person, like looking at Jonathan Majors, you know, he's not really that type of person, is he? But Coleman Domingo, I could totally see him kind of being submissive to a Doom.
Speaking of Doom, if we get Doom in the mask, I could see him being Doom. Just think about the dialogues of Doom in the comics and that kind of stuff. He could even pull off Doom if they do Doom in the mask the whole time. I don't want to hear about changing this and that. All he needs a voice. He could be that voice. We don't care who it is in the mask, because all you see is Doom. All you see is without the mask.
Imagine how good it would be. I know we live in the time where they can't do this anymore because it's always a leak's always going to come out. Somebody's always going to see it now. But imagine we never know who that actor is that plays Doom until at some point in a movie, a TV show project, or whatever, Doom takes off his mask, and it's one of those like, wow, like had no clue that was who it was, and they could just change his voice a little bit with like a voice changer. He's wearing the mask. It's like whatever. But you know, like they could do that, and I would love for them to be able to do it. I get that it's impossible with the times, but it would be so excellent if they could pull that off.
You guys have got you've got the Masked Singer over there, haven't you? The US, yeah. They manage it there. They manage to do it there. They keep that all. I mean, I know it's a TV show and it's obviously a much lower budget and much lower stakes and stuff, but you know, they do it there. They all go around with like hoods on their heads and you know, the stuff
costumes,
like that. That would be awesome. Yeah, and the cost. Yeah, no, I mean when they're not in the costume, they go around in black outfits, like no like clothes. It's just a black outfit with a hood over their head, so that they're completely unknown. But that would be awesome. Yeah.
And speaking of Doom, Mads Mikkelsen via Dana RPK is reportedly in talks with Marvel Studios for a new role in the MCU. And this isn't uncommon for Marvel to bring back characters they've killed off for those actors to be recast. We saw it with Gemma Chan between Captain Marvel and the Eternals. We've seen other people get recast, so this would be another one of those big recasts, and he could do Doom probably good as well. So
and he could, and now imagine Coleman Domingo's Kang sort of being, you know, I'm the man, I'm in charge of everything, everybody bow, you know, bend the knee and, you know, bow before me. And then imagine Mads Mikkelsen's Doom coming in and owning him. You'd go, yep, that could work.
Marvel Zombies. Zombie Scarlet Witch, also known as the Dead Queen, will be the main villain in Marvel Zombies. And we already kind of saw that she can control them already. Zombie Okoye, however, is her second in command. So there you go. That'd be interesting.
Like they're conscious. They are conscious, obviously.
Young Avengers news. Via the Cosmic Circus, a Young Avengers film is reportedly in the works at Marvel Studios. The group will reportedly consist of Kamala Khan, Kate Bishop, Cassie Lang, America Chavez, Billy, and Tommy Maximoff. Other potential members: Ironheart, Hulkling, Axel Heimdallson. That's an interesting one. Eli Bradley and Scar. So yeah, the most shocking one there is Axel Heimdallson as part of that team. Everyone else we've already seen. You know, we're going to pretty much probably see how Billy and Tommy come back via Agatha show. But it's interesting to see how we get Hulkling in the MCU. You know, I was hoping they would have teased him by now, but interesting how they're going to bring him into
maybe,
the MCU.
Maybe that will be the story.
Yeah.
Maybe the story will be that team has already assembled or has to assemble to deal with Hulkling.
Yep. Maybe. That's a good point. I'd love to see more assembling first, because we already know that Kamala and Kate know each other now from the end of the Marvels. Seeing them kind of go get Cassie or them kind of divide and conquering, right? Kind of like with how Fury sent Natasha to get the Hulk, and they kind of do that. So Kate gets Cassie, maybe Kamala gets America. From there, they use America to kind of jump around once she learns how to control it to get Billy and Tommy, and maybe Ironheart's kind of like that role saying, no, I'm good, kind of leave me out of this one, that kind of thing. So
I just had a thought. I wonder. So Hulkling, he's
Kree Skrull. Yeah,
Kree, isn't he? So yeah, my mind went blank. And obviously Kamala's had in the Marvels, she had dealings with both the Kree and the Skrull. So I wonder whether Hulkling could be on some sort of vendetta against Kamala.
Ooh.
And he's going after Kamala, and Kamala asks Kate, and she has to sort of build a team to stop him. And then they realise that actually he's actually a decent guy, and Billy obviously can talk him down, or maybe, and they find some sort of connection, and then Hulkling actually joins the team in the end. Could work.
Yeah, I kind of hope after we get another end credit scene with Kamala, and maybe we see her at the end of Brave New World and recruiting Eli Bradley.
Yeah, got to have Patriot in there. Got to have Patriot in there.
We also have talk of X-Men versus Avengers as well. Also, according to the Cosmic Circus, an idea has been tossed around that involves an Avengers versus X-Men film set between the members of 616 Avengers and the X-Men. I'm gonna go to the chat real quick. Think they'll do anything with Hulk's kid and that super sweet reverse mohawk? I hopefully they do something to kind of improve the look. I hear you from
just ignore it.
She-Hulk, yeah.
Ignore it for the time being. Pretend it didn't happen. Yeah, that was awful.
But he'll be catching waves on the beach, like.
yeah.
Back to this 616 Avengers and the X-Men. This will kind of be a setup from possibly multiverse of madness, maybe. Maybe the 838 X-Men come after the 616 Avengers, maybe. Maybe this sets up as part of the whole multiverse saga and something that we see. This could be, that third part movie. Maybe the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but after they deal with Kang, they go ham on each other.
Or maybe Carol goes looking for Maria. Monica goes looking for Monica, and it's that X-Men from that universe that they
one too.
Carol recruits some Avengers to go and help her find Monica, and then those X-Men they all think that they're the baddies, so they fight each other.
Perfect time to get the proper MCU Rogue and see that battle between Rogue in Captain Marvel. That would be great.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so there you go. Carol goes after and tries to find Monica, and Rogue is one of the X-Men, and she fights her. Perfect.
Great third Captain Marvel movie right
there. Yeah, great third Captain Marvel movie, yeah.
There you go. That's a great one. Yeah.
We've sorted it. Done.
We're done. Yes. Bring my money. No.
A lot more writing has to be done.
Are you sure?
Yeah, just a little bit more.
Is that not how movies are made like that?
Yeah. Back to the chat about the whole Mohawk thing with Hulkling's kid. Yep. Yeah, I think I just said in Young Avengers. Yep. But yeah, seeing that change from She-Hulk to Young Avengers and redoing his look. Also, they love our idea of Captain Marvel 3 being that. That'd be a great movie. It'd be like, remember Star Wars, The Search for Spock? It could be Captain Marvel, The Search for Monica type of thing. I don't know. Yeah.
So, Star Trek as well.
Yeah. Speaking of X-Men, X-Men 97, Wolverine and Storm will not be a couple in the series. Storm will find a likely romance with Forge from X-Factor. So that's interesting. That's been reported out there. Also, too, the show will probably have 10 episodes from what has been out there reported.
That's a nice number. That's a nice number, actually. I was afraid that this show would have like 1 million episodes. It'd be like, the old cartoons where there was like 26 episodes. Yeah, 23. Yeah, and it's like, oh, God, I've got to commit to this for 23 weeks or whatever it is, or however many hours. But yeah, 10s, that's cool. I can deal with 10. That's nice.
It reminds me of Layer Cake Morty when he sees that guy that put him in jail. He's like, 10's a nice round number. Thunderbolts news. Bear with me here because it's been a roller coaster news with Thunderbolts. So at first, Steven Yeun in his Sentry suit is reportedly might be the best superhero suit we've seen in the MCU via Daniel RPK. Also, too, Marvel is currently casting a high-tech militia group. That team will face off against in Thunderbolts. So the Thunderbolts team will face off against this militia group. But then we get to the whole roller coaster coming down. Reportedly, Steven Yeun has dropped out of the role of playing Sentry. According to Daniel RPK, it's currently unclear if the rumor that Steven Yeun has reportedly dropped out, that was at first, because everyone's like, what's going on? But then the Hollywood Reporter put it out there saying that Yeun has moved on from the role. He's reportedly supposed to have a role for Sentry beyond the Thunderbolts as well. So now we have to recast Sentry now. His departure, though, is due to delays from the writers and actor strikes. So he has other commitments, basically, what they're telling us. Which I understand that. There's a lot of things been fluid for the past year or so, and if you have other commitments to do, and you got to pick and choose what you want to do. But in the article, he also talks about Steven Yeun himself says, I think for me, time passing and things shifting kind of pulled me out of it. But Jake Schreier, I know, is going to do an incredible job. He also says, I want to do a Marvel movie. I have some ideas, but I heard if you put it out there, you'll never get it, so I'll keep it close to my chest. Now, if we basically, we haven't seen Amadeus Cho yet in the MCU, and the whole jump from seeing Helen Cho in Age of Ultron until now, he could be Amadeus Cho and as an adult in the MCU.
Not a bad casting. I actually really like that. I was gonna say something like I could see him play Toad, like from the X-Men, stuff. Like I feel like he'd be a good Toad. But man, I really like Amadeus Cho. I feel like he'd be pretty good at that role.
Now, I have some ideas if they want to kind of stay with the Asian style actor for this role. People keep saying, go back to, other people, go back to who Sentry was in the comics. You got people like Alan I think it's Rickson or Rickman. I can't remember his last name. He's a pretty muscular, solid jaw type of dude.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, Alan Rickman. Yeah,
it can't be Alan Rickman.
Yeah, but
can't be Alan Rickman.
I'll look him up. But anyways, if they want to stay with an Asian actor, Brian T, he's around the same age as Steven Yeun. He's a little bit older. He's played the Shredder in the Turtles. He's been the Fast and Furious. He's got a pretty good resume. He could pull that off if they want to stay with that demographic for Sentry. What are your guys' thoughts?
I would love Jared Padalecki, who played Sam in Supernatural, to be the Sentry. Like, I mean, he's tall, he's huge, he's like 6'5", he's got long hair, like I feel like he was my choice for Adam Warlock, actually. And obviously we didn't get him as Adam Warlock, but like now I've kind of moved him over to the Sentry kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, like, I think it's one of those roles where they can probably go a lot of different ways with that character. It's a less known character to the general public versus like comic readers,
The actor I'm talking about is Alan Richson. So he's in Reacher. He plays Reacher. He's also in Fast X.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. He played
in Titans.
Yes.
Yeah, he was also in Blue Mountain State, and he played in Teen Titans as Hawk.
Yeah.
And then he also played Aquaman in Smallville.
So, that's right. Really? That's right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's a long time ago. You're going back in the archives right there.
way back.
From the chat here, I'm actually happy about that. The whole him dropping out. I like him, but not for Sentry. Hope they cast someone closer to what Sentry looks like next time. I agree about Cho will be good for him, but Sentry really, other than being Canadian, really doesn't have like a strong person he's tied to. It's not like he's like an actor who that person is really tied to.
And that's what we've said all along.
Yeah.
It's like if a character's race, gender, sexuality, background, whatever is important to that character, then they should stay as that, whatever that is. But if it's not, then it kind of doesn't matter. I suppose if it doesn't matter, why not just have them as they were in the comics, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, though, Joe, and I don't think it does matter. They've got to have a certain feel about them, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter necessarily sometimes about their gender or their race, but they have got to have an aura about them. And in fairness, I mean, I think he probably could have done a job all right, but I think he's probably for the best.
Excuse me.
Bless you, Jarian.
Thank you. But also, if they were back to look more like comic book century, I think Skarsgård would be the prototypical person to play that. I would save Alan Ritchson's for Hyperion. He looks like Hyperion. He looks exactly like a Hyperion. Yeah.
I would like Hyperion. I think he'd be good at doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Ryan Gosling as Sentry?
Yeah, I can see Ryan Gosling as well. And he's in talks with MCU, and there's not really known who he's going to play. So I could see Ryan Gosling play that role. I actually like what I see from him in the Fall Guy trailer. I see him as more as a Johnny Blaze, though, type from that trailer, him playing that role.
Danny
Ketch, or Danny Ketch even. It's just the stunt stuff. It reminds me of Blaze more. But I could see him also playing that role as well. I forgot what I was going to say. I just went blank. Anyways, if I remember, I'll say it again. Where was I at next? Fantastic Four reportedly begins filming in May 2024, so a couple months now. So hey, it's January. You got like just under 5 months to announce that cast. So hopefully we get the official. And then I put this in the wrong thing. We'll talk about this later on, I guess. This will come back after Echo about the release schedule. Moon Knight news. Mohammed Diab talks about blackouts and Jake Lockley. It became more interesting to direct the blackout than the action. We've all seen huge action sequences before, but now anything can happen in a second season. Or in a second, you can be transferred somewhere else and you don't know what happened. Even the protagonist doesn't know what happened. That glued people to their seats. At the end, we discovered the blackouts were actually Jake. It was a big question. Is Jake going to be in our show or not? We tried in some versions to have him, but eventually he was in the show without being in the show, and I love that. So basically, it's that whole Tyler Durden, whatever his name is, Tyler Durden thing in Fight Club with Cornelius, or whatever his real name was. So you kind of got that with it. On Jake's storyline, there's already 40 years of material. Things are going to get wilder. If you thought Mark and Steven's story was unbelievable, Jake's will be much, much weirder. There are many ways to go between the three of them. Who would be the friends with whom? Because Jake seems like he's on a whole different level. So it sounds like if they get a season 2, nothing official yet, but I could see season 2 being more focused on Jake Lockley. So he was there, but he wasn't there.
I mean, we saw like 5 seconds of him in season 1 of Moon Knight. So I mean, like I think that they left that almost intentionally to kind of be like, hey, there's a little bit more on the vine for us to kind of like, kind of pull in here maybe in the future. And yeah, I mean, I feel like season 1 was one of those things where it was so secluded away from everything else in the MCU that it was almost, that was part of the storytelling of, is this in his head or is this actually happening? But, like we only really got to see, what was it, Grant and Mark Spector, and that was pretty much it in season 1. So it'll be nice for them to kind of explore a little bit more with that character.
Yeah, a cool season 2 will be continuing the story, but also having flashbacks of when Mark or Steven blacked out and actually showing what Jake was doing in some of those flashbacks. I think will be pretty cool. Not a whole lot of it, but little breadcrumbs here and there, but move the story forward. Yeah. Kind of like those flashes we saw with, in Fight Club type style, when he kind of figured out that they were the same person, that he was his, basically his imaginary friend. From the chat here, I love it. Bring on Lockley makes me happy.
Now, Lockley was the one that was driving the car, right? In that scene at the end in Moon Knight. Yep. Where Khonshu and everything take Arthur and okay. Just wanted to make sure.
I mentioned last time we spoke about Eyes of Wakanda got announced during the whole What If stuff premieres and that whole thing. We have some more stuff out there. So reportedly, Iron Fist is rumored to appear in Eyes of Wakanda. And it sounds like Eyes of Wakanda is out there with, getting more vibranium and that kind of stuff. So I wonder how Iron Fist ties into this.
Well, with the Netflix stuff sort of becoming canon for Daredevil, it makes me wonder if they will recast.
I think so. Yeah. So like I said, they're going to pick and choose. And I think Iron Fist is kind of like, you stay in that corner. We're going to redo Iron Fist the way we want to do it in the MC. So here's one, though. Excalibur series. A rumored series based in UK featuring Emilia Clarke's Gia and Kit Harington's Dane Whitman, possibly having Captain Britain's debut. Now, this is what I was going to say earlier. People keep fan casting Cavill as Sentry for the recast, but if you're going to make Captain Britain, you know, if you're going to have Broderick in the MCU, there you go, Henry Cavill.
Yeah, that'd be funny as well, having Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke back together after Game of Thrones.
Agatha, reportedly a very traumatized Ralph Boner will return. So, which makes sense from season 1, how he kind of snapped out of it at the end. He's also supposed to be in Wonder Man as well. So I wonder if this will be the setup before we actually get him in Wonder Man. So, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. The new season premieres with 2 episodes on Disney Channel and Disney XD on Friday, February 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The first batch of season 2 episodes will be on Disney Plus the following day. So they're doing the whole thing we did last time. Disney Channel stuff first and then Disney Plus afterwards. We talked about What If. Let me go down to Armor Wars. Via Dana RPK, Marvel has reportedly had talks with Sam Rockwell about reprising his role as Justin Hammer. They also want to lock down a director during Q1 of 2024 and plan to begin shooting in 2025. So, Spider-Man 4, there's a rumor going around that Sony Marvel are apparently more interested in Drew Goddard, who did the Daredevil Netflix show running, directing Spider-Man 4 than John Watts.
Interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of Spider-Man, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder if there's anything more to read into that in regards to the Spider-Man Daredevil sort of connection in, you know,
the Devil's Reign stuff.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of Spider-Man universe, it looks like Sony wants to expand that universe. So they're developing. The rumor is, they're developing a Mysterio and Doc Ock movies. Hugh Dancy is on the radar for Doc Ock, and will be an origin story. It sounds like Sony is building towards their Sinister Six type of film.
Just when we thought it was finishing.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of those things where the Venom movies have been, I wouldn't say the best, but I feel like they've done okay, right? And I feel like since that sort of happened, they've kind of got this idea that we need to keep rolling on with more and more villains. And I get it, like they've got Spider-Man, they've got tons of characters around that they want to make movies and do projects with, but like that Kraven movie I'm not excited for, and you know, it doesn't really make. Yeah. I mean, like I saw the trailer for that before I saw Aquaman. Like they played that trailer, and it doesn't look bad, but I'm not excited for it. You know, it's one of those things, and I think with a lot of these things, like, does Mysterio need a project? No.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Like, you know, like I feel like we saw his story, but like, you know.
How did Mysterio know in Spider-Man Far From Home about 616?
Yeah.
So, Madam Web, you know, I'm not really looking forward to right now. Maybe I'll get more excited to as we see more about it and hear more about it. Kraven, I really, the only thing I want to see is Rhino. How they do Rhino. I don't want a robot. I want an actual Rhino.
But everybody loves the actor that played Doc Ock in the Toby movie, and then
Multiverse or. No, No Way Home.
In No Way Home. Yeah, Alfred Molina. So everybody loved him in the second Spider-Man movie and then in No Way Home. So I just feel like that's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's really hard to replace that actor for that character, because he did such a good job. He really embodied that character, I thought.
And the question is do you need to?
No.
Do you need to replace him? Like you said, does Mysterio need his own project? No. So on this kind of same note, I was I saw one of these AI things on Facebook the other day. It was annoying that it flashed up, but it looked cool. But I then had an internal struggle myself. It was Robert Downey Jr. as Doc Brown and Tom Holland as Marty McFly. And I was like, oh, wow, that looks amazing. And I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And then I just went, wait, no, no, just never do that, ever. Just don't ever go anywhere near Back to the Future. It's not needed. Like, and it's one of these things. It's like, do we really need a Mysterio project.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things that's saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And from the chat here, I'm actually crying on the inside already over Kraven, which I don't think we need these individual villain films. Just give us a good Sinister Six movie. Give us, kind of them coming together like we kind of saw the first part of Avengers and them doing stuff. And like Andy has said, seeing things from the villain's point of view to get that perspective, that would be the great project to focus on, not these individual characters.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really hard too with some of these characters because it's like I feel like the general audience doesn't have an attachment to some like they see these as villains and everything, but they're not going to want to go see a 2-hour movie that just focuses on them. I mean, like I loved Andy's idea a really long time ago about seeing things like the Spider-Man movie from Venom's perspective and then Spider-Man's perspective, and then they kind of clash and then you kind of see the combination. But it's like even in this, it's like, yeah, I mean, we love to like sympathize with villains. I feel like that builds more attachment, but like you got to do it right. You can't just like keep on just trying to pump out more and more and more. Like you can put all those characters in one movie, like you said, with like a Sinister Six movie, and we can kind of see like a reasoning of why they come together, kind of get a little bit of a backstory on each, and you don't have to like spend 2 hours on each one,
You know what I would do if I was Sony? This whole Sony Marvel relationship, we're getting Spider-Man 4 as part of the MCU, but as part of that agreement, do the Sinister Six film, bring J. Jonah Jameson back as, that actor.
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, break J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson. You've kind of already got that theme, the InfoWars type style of him from No Way Home. Bring him back. Tom Holland on his own. Make Tom Holland the villain of that film with the Sinister Six as the heroes, and that's from their whole point of view going after Tom Holland. Also, too, bring in Scorpion. Give us that tease from Homecoming. I don't think maybe have Morbius be Spider-Man's ally in this film. I don't know if you have to do that.
Yeah.
But give us that traditional Sinister Six cast and go from there. I think that's the movie they need to do, not these individual ones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bring us our money. Thank you. No.
Twice.
Yeah. From the chat here, I feel like Sony's heart really isn't in it. They're interested enough in the characters and the stories. Seems to me they're just chasing a dollar, trying to cash in on a popular character in their gallery, which I could see that. And I don't know if you guys want to Disney just buy Sony Entertainment. I don't know what you can do here. But yeah, I would rather see a Sinister Six film from the villain's point of view with Spider-Man as the villain than see individual villain films.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so filming updates, Deadpool 3, it's restarted. Daredevil is supposed to restart sometime this year, so hopefully we get news on that. I know Vin Diesel said it's very soon in some of his comments. Wonder Man is supposed to be restarting soon as well. Thunderbolt's supposed to be in the spring, but now with the whole Stephen Yeun news, I don't know if that's going to stay in the spring. Maybe they pivot fast to a new Sentry casting. Fantastic Four is in May, like I said before. Where's that cast at? Brave New World restarts when it's ready, so sometime this year. Looks like probably middle of this year. Blade, late this year supposedly. Hopefully no more delays with Blade. That's one of the films I'm really wanting to see. Avengers 5 or Secret Wars Part 1, where they're going to call it, late this year. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Moving on to DC news. The Batman 2, via Daniel RPK, reportedly Dick Grayson, a.k.a. Robin, reportedly be in the Batman Part 2. The Batman Part 2 reportedly feature a variety of villains: Scarecrow, Professor Pig, Clayface, and Hush. So,
I think Clayface would be an interesting villain, because I know that's kind of like a more kind of realistic, kind of down-to-earth universe, so they're kind of focusing on, more characters. Like Hush is a great kind of character that it's not really like supernatural or has any powers or anything, but I'll be interested to see how they do like Clayface, for instance, in that.
And speaking of the Batman, I would still love to see a continuation of Nolan's universe. Maybe one more film just to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Nightwing
as
Batman at first, and then possibly Christian Bale returns, like the Dark Knight Returns, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, someone from here in the chat goes Deadshot. Oh, are you talking about a villain, or do you want to elaborate on that? Margot Robbie spoke on Harley Quinn. Via Variety, she talked about if she will continue playing Harley Quinn. She says, I always wanted Harley to be a character that would get passed on to other actresses to play. The way there are so many iconic male characters, that was always the dream for her. It sounds like she's done with the role and both sides are moving on, right? We're already getting Lady Gaga in the Joker part 2. Maybe if they go into the whole DCU, they'll do a new person that's Harley Quinn. So,
I mean, I feel like she's got that Barbie money now, right? Like Barbie killed it, so she could just make 2 more Barbie movies and probably never have to even think about working a day in her life. Like that movie was killer, you know. So,
but she's been in so many great roles too that her pockets are probably straight. So
yeah, that's true. It's,
from that Deadshot, the villain. So the villain of Batman. So there you go. That'd be a good one. Yeah, I could see it. Suicide Squad Ayer cut. It's not being released. It's not happened. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. It's done and done. Very sad, Ayer said via social media. So, James Gunn also, he's been pretty spicy on social media, correcting people and setting things straight when people say bad things out there or wrong things. He talked about the DCU, but this is in response to the Green Lantern project. Guys, if I said it once, I've said it again 1,000 times. Everything out there is BS unless it comes from me. People don't even know the writer on the show. How do you think they know the age of the character? So
talking about John Stewart.
Yeah, so it looks like anything with not just Green Lantern, but the DCU, unless James Gunn says, talks about it, it's all noise. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like we're going to see Guy Gardner in the Superman Legacy movies, so I feel like he'll at least be acknowledged probably in that show, or maybe we'll see him briefly in that show. I feel like, if we do see John Stewart or Hal Jordan or, even if we see Sinestro or, any of those who was a Green Lantern at one point before he became a Yellow Lantern, I think it'd be really interesting to see, like, what they kind of do with that. I know they've, like, teased that it's sort of like a buddy cop kind of show, so we will probably see, like, 2... Yeah, Lethal Weapon. Now I'm just thinking of that one.
It's Always Sunny.
Always Sunny. Yeah. Like, oh man. But yeah, like I'm really curious to see it. I think they've been talking about a Green Lantern show for years now. Before James Gunn took over, they were supposed to do one, and I know Finn Wittrock from American Horror Story was cast as Guy Gardner at one point, and then I guess that just didn't happen, and they moved on, they changed, they put Gunn in charge, and then he brought in what's his name, Nathan Finnegan, is that his name, to play Guy Gardner. But yeah,
Fillion.
Fillion, thank you. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that project. To be fair, Green Lanterns are always such interesting, they're space cops in essence, so interesting to see what they do.
It'd be like a Nova Star-Lord type film.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of DCU stuff, and I know last time we streamed, we talked about the Batman it's a separate universe due to the director wanting to be. Why can't they do the same thing for Stargirl and continue the Stargirl as her own universe and do that on HBO or the Max, whatever it's called now, and go that way? That was such a great show.
Man, it was so fantastic. It was one of those things that I think they brought that show out as kind of like the front runner for the DC Universe, like streaming service, when they had that for like the 2 months that they had it before they slid everything over to like Max or however long they had that show. And that was also when they did Swamp Thing and stuff like that. But man, that show was so great. I was so upset when they moved it over to the CW because I was like, oh no, here goes the writing on this show. Because the writing was superb on Stargirl. And yeah, I mean, like, it was nice to kind of see this new generation kind of take over the mantles of all these other people and kind of like fill their roles, and them not being ideal. But I mean, even bringing in some of those villains like Shade. Shade was an excellent villain to see what they did with him. That is one of the best live action DC shows I think I've ever seen. Stargirl, can't recommend it enough.
Moving on to Percy Jackson. Disney Plus will debut a documentary, A Hero's Journey: The Making of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. It's set to stream on January 31st of this month, one day after the season 1 finale, which I'm probably going to wait to binge watch the whole season, probably, for Percy Jackson. Probably stay with my son not on a weekend day, we're not doing anything, and do that one. So you're getting the making of that.
I actually am all caught up on that show, and I actually bought the first book again so I can start reading those all the way through because I loved those books as a kid, and the show's pretty good. It's definitely, I think, better than the movies, excuse me, that they did. I think they did 2 of them. So
my son actually is the
very
cute
similar,
version,
though, isn't it? The story is very, very similar. It's like the exact same story, and like the exact same things happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the movies were based on the book, and there are some small liberties that they take in the TV show and everything that are just slightly different. But man, I mean, like, I think the movies were just like off. I didn't like them. I wasn't, you know, like, I remember reading that book as a kid, and like I went to a book fair as a kid, and my school did not want kids buying those books, and I looked underneath something and found Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and I bought it, and I snuck it like out to the person, and they let me pay for it and buy it, and I took it home, and I read that book in like no time, and that was like one of my favorite books as a kid. So like when those movies came out, The Sea of Monsters and The Lightning Thief, I was a little bit disappointed with those, but you know, like the books were excellent. They were top tier.
Why didn't they want you to read them?
I'm sorry?
Why didn't they want you to read them?
Christian schools. So
okay.
Other gods and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking like there's nothing bad in those books. Because I read them when I was younger too. So I'm just like trying to think why, but yeah, that makes sense now. Okay.
Monotheism versus polytheism.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, my son actually bought the books too. I gotta check if he's read them yet. We were at Target one day and they had the book set in the kids section. He bought those too. So I gotta double check to see if he read them yet. Because I think I said before we watch it, we need to read those books. Cobra Kai, filming has started for season 6. So,
awesome.
And in not the news today, a popular actress who has a lot of range has kind of thrown her hat out there to be a superhero. Penelope Cruz has talked about being a superhero. She's doing press for Ferrari. She tells Variety she has no plans at the moment, but would love to do a superhero movie. She said, if it's something interesting, why not? It's fun. As you can imagine, that's why my kids ask me sometimes, are you ever going to do that, Mom? Because I've done so much drama in many films, I can't show it to them yet. So I can't think of a role, but I think she'll play a great role. I just can't think of the role for her right now. Mm-hmm. You know, it'd be kind of cool if we got Inhumans back. Possibly Yo-Yo.
Medusa,
but even Yo-Yo. I like Yo-Yo on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
You know?
We got robbed of Medusa in that TV show, the Inhumans
we got robbed
show.
of everything in there.
Well, that's true. But I mean, like, when they were like, oh, here's Medusa with her powers, and then they're like, we're just going to cut her hair for the rest of the season, I was like, what are we doing here? Yeah, it's like, did we not want to pay for the CGI or something? Like, you know, like, why even make this show if you're going to do that?
She'd make a good Crystal, too.
Yeah.
Depending who they cast for Johnny Storm, if they ever come back,
older,
she could be a good Medusa. Or sorry, Crystal. I'm trying to think what other Inhumans she could play. Maybe possibly Daisy's mom. Maybe.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like if they brought back Chloe Bennett to play Daisy, she could possibly be Daisy's mom. Mm-hmm. You know, depending on how we go things here.
Lady, she could play Death.
Yeah.
Play Death.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm all for it. You know, bring on Penelope Cruz in either DC, Marvel, The Boys. Oh, The Boys! Give her some kind of role in The Boys. That would be awesome because she has some range, and I think The Boys could use her full potential.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, last thing from the chat. Monarch show is pretty good. If anyone's interested, yes, I concur with that. I've been watching that weekly. I love the MonsterVerse. The way they tie the Monarch into what we've seen in parts of the MonsterVerse. You know, I don't think it's a big spoiler, but they kind of tied into King of after the San Francisco attack, and then King of Monsters is kind of the tie-ins. But the whole thing they do with Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell and the jumping back and forth playing the same character, you know, they kind of do step on some stuff in Kong vs. Godzilla, that movie a little bit. I won't give it away, but it's a great show. I love how they show the history of Monarch, how it got started, you know, how they were going through the U.S. military involvement, all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't watched, and I get you might not have Apple TV Plus, it's a great show to watch. And I think the finale is next week. So maybe you'll be able to see it somewhere else possibly afterwards. But yeah, I love it, and I'm loving what they're doing with the MonsterVerse. I can't wait for Godzilla X Kong movie, because that movie looks like it's gonna take that to a whole nother level with that universe. So
nice. Might have to use I've got a 3-month free subscription, so I might have to use that and binge it all.
Yeah, I know some phone companies offer free things too as well. Yeah, because I got like T-Mobile, for example, they give you the MLS pass for free. So I got that added on for free to mine. We have the family thing where you do the workout, all that kind of stuff, because we use it. But yeah, if you have some look at your phone stuff, sometimes they give free incentives for different streaming services.
Very cool.
So
nice. Is that all the news done there, then, Joe?
We are done, and we're just on time, because you said 90 minutes, and we're just over 90 minutes.
And we've got, and this time next week, we're going to have a lot of Echo to talk about. We'll have to work out some sort of strategy about how we're going to talk about it, because I can't imagine for one moment I'm going to get in 5 episodes in 4 days. Yeah. But I'm sure we can work that out off screen. Is there anything we need to know about that before it comes out, Joan?
No, other than it looks like we're continuing from Hawkeye, have some of the Daredevil stuff mixed in. Seems like Daredevil from Netflix is part of that. So like I said, they're pulling things they want to in.
Do we know the length of the episodes yet?
Probably too short. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Right.
I haven't seen episode lengths. There's been some chatter out there. I've kind of been ignoring the chatter because I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great. What is the release date on Echo?
All episodes on Tuesday.
Okay.
So this is the first. So Marvel's doing 2 first between the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024. They released the episode a day with What If, and they're coming in 2024, or so to end 2023, they did that. To begin 2024, they're saying, you know what, you're getting everything at once now. It looks like they're possibly testing things. Also, remember too, this is the first show under Marvel's new Spotlight section. So also too, Disney Plus or Hulu. If you're on Disney Plus, make sure that your account is set for TVMA to be able to see Echo as well.
Awesome. Great stuff. Great to be back, guys. Covered What If, covered loads of news. Awesome stuff. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on our group. And everywhere else where you get podcasts and shows. We're on Twitter. We're on all of them. Come and find us, or X, whatever it's called now. Come and find us. Thank you for joining us, the RMC. Miles Jordan, thank you for those couple of comments, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye. Happy 2024.